gentlemen, in your own time, please.
Tell us a little bit about what a reaver was and what they did.
Okay, so reaving is a word which basically means stealing. And the Border Reivers were members of a group of notorious families that lived on the English side or the Scottish side, or sometimes both. Family names like the Armstrongs, the Elliots, the Kerrs, the Charltons were famous for raiding each other across the border.
So what were the reavers after? Were they after money? Were they after cattle or sheep or what?
Right, well, the reavers would basically take anything from you, including literally the shirt from your back. And there's stories about people being taken hostage, taken across the other side of the border, and then released naked because the reavers had taken even the clothing from them.
Now, a lot of what people will see about these times they've obviously learned from films like, I suppose, like Braveheart and that sort of thing. How accurate are those portrayals, do you think?
Pretty inaccurate. I mean, Braveheart was a depiction of the Scottish Wars of Independence, William Wallace. That was at the beginning of the Reaver period, and certainly, there were a lot of unsavoury individuals involved, but the idea of kilted wild Highlanders coming down across the border to steal our goods is a bit of a Hollywood fantasy. In reality, you couldn't tell the difference between English and Scottish borderers because they looked pretty much the same.
I suppose not. And places like this, then, the Pele Tower at Cresswell, how important would they be to people locally?
They would be important to the family that was lucky enough to have one. And their immediate friends, servants, associates. Not everybody was that lucky, and while John Cresswell was holed up in his tower, fending off all comers, then there would be people in the area whose houses would get burned and whose cattle would get driven off, and very often the only way to recover would be to go off and do the same to somebody else.
And days like this, how important do you think they are?
For the tower, certainly it does bring a lot of people to the tower. It teaches them a little bit about its importance in local history. It adds a little bit of interest so that people get a better idea of the context in which the tower was built, and people lived in it.